Now let's define what a project manager is and describe how they add value to their teams and organizations. Let's start with the definition. Project managers shepherd projects from start to finish and serve as guides for their team, using their impeccable organizational and interpersonal skills every step of the way. As you learned earlier, project managers usually follow a process that involves planning and organizing, managing tasks, budgeting, and controlling costs so that the project can be completed within the approved timeframe. We'll dig deeper into these topics throughout this program. What you need to know right now is that project managers play a crucial role in their organizations. Project managers add value to their teams and organizations in key ways that include prioritization, delegation, and effective communication. So let's break these down. First, we'll discuss prioritization. Project managers add value to their teams and organizations through effective prioritization of tasks required to complete a project. They're experts at helping team members identify and break down large tasks into smaller steps. There will be times when a project manager may not know which tasks to prioritize. To determine which ones are the most critical to the success of the project, they'll connect with their teams and with stakeholders to gather information and make a plan. Stakeholders are people who are interested in and affected by the project's completion and success, like the leader of an organization. You've probably used prioritization to complete work in the past. In any kind of project, personal or professional, there are tasks with different levels of priority. For example, let's imagine that you've decided to rent a house and plan to repaint the rooms. You've picked out your paint and you're eager to get started. While it may be tempting to start painting right away, you'll need to prioritize tasks like laying out drop cloths to protect the floors and furniture, applying blue tape to the room's edges, and much more. Those preliminary steps are critical and need to come before painting. Other related steps, like choosing new faceplates for your light switches, can come later in the process or be switched out of the project entirely if you run out of time or money. When you choose to take care of these preliminary steps before wedging open the paint can, you're prioritizing the tasks or steps of your project. You're also increasing the likelihood that you'll be satisfied with your newly painted rooms. This process is similar for professional projects. When you effectively prioritize important tasks, you set up your team and yourself for a better project outcome. Now, let's discuss delegation. Project managers use delegation to add value to their teams and organizations by matching tasks to individuals who can best complete the work. Let's return to our house painting example for a second here. Painting multiple rooms can be a time-consuming project, so it's possible that you might enlist a few friends to help you get it done. Maybe one friend has professional painting experience. Now, with that in mind, you might ask her to handle the more challenging aspects of the project, like painting the ceiling or the detailed molding. You might also schedule her to paint the molding before another friend paints the walls. So by delegating this task to the person with the right skills to complete the work and ordering the tasks appropriately, you're applying knowledge of your team's strengths to the planning of your project. That makes sense, right? Finally, let's talk about effective communication. Project managers deliver value through effective communication, both with their team and with key stakeholders. This refers to being transparent, which means being upfront with plans and ideas and making information readily available. Project managers keep in regular contact with their team about the progress of the work and help identify areas where a teammate may need support. In our house painting example, this might involve checking in with your friends periodically to ask if they have enough paint or supplies left to complete their tasks. Checking in regularly means you'll know if you need to buy more paint before the can is empty, which ensures that the project stays on track. In addition to keeping up with teammates, project managers keep in regular contact with people outside of the team, like company leaders who are invested in the project outcomes. For example, you might reach out to your landlord to get permission to paint and to share the days you'll be working on this project. Though your landlord isn't directly involved in the project's execution, the outcomes will affect her property, and so it's important to keep her informed. Without your project management skills, you might run out of paint halfway through the project, your walls might get painted without drop cloths to protect the floors, and your landlord could be caught off guard about your plans. So it's a good thing you're here to keep the project running smoothly and efficiently. Great. Now you should be able to define what a project manager is and explain how they use prioritization, delegation, and effective communication to deliver value to their organizations. Coming up, you'll hear about the career path of a real-life project manager at Google. Their journey, to me, is fascinating, and we can't wait to share it with you. You learn that project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to meet the project requirements and achieve the desired outcome. So, how does that actually happen? Well, that's where you come in. Project managers usually follow a process that involves planning and organizing, managing tasks, budgeting, and controlling costs, and other factors so that the project can be completed within the approved budget and time frame. Let's break these down into examples of responsibilities that you might find in a job listing for a project management role. We'll start with planning and organizing. One responsibility that falls under the umbrella of planning and organizing is making use of productivity tools and creating processes. During the planning and execution of a project, you might need to use certain tools and develop processes to improve information sharing across the team. You may also need to create plans, timelines, schedules, and other forms of documentation to track project completion. And you'll usually need to maintain those documents throughout the entirety of the project. The next task is budgeting and controlling costs and other factors. As the project is underway, changes to the plan and budget are bound to come up, believe me. This will require you to monitor and manage the budget, track issues and risks as they arise, and manage quality by mitigating those issues and risks. One way to do this is by removing unforeseen barriers that come up. Now, by barriers, we mean things that can get in the way of project progress. For example, if your teammates lack the resources needed to complete a task, you might identify that issue or barrier up front, escalate the issue to a stakeholder, and work to secure the resource so your team can move forward. Another huge piece of the project manager's role is managing tasks. A project task is an activity that needs to be accomplished within a set period of time by you, your team, or your stakeholders. Keeping track of tasks is a great way to help manage the team's workload and ensure that things are getting done. Keeping track of tasks is also a great tool for demonstrating progress to people outside the immediate team, like your stakeholders. Back when I was a program manager in student development here at Google, one of our goals was to create pathways for students who identify with communities that are underrepresented in the technology industry. A large part of my day-to-day responsibilities involved working with two separate engineering teams to create our technical curriculum. To manage the tasks associated with this project, I created separate project trackers for each team that outlined the vision for the curriculum. These trackers kept both teams in the loop about the timeline for delivery, the categories and subcategories for work, and the team members assigned to each task. I also made sure to update our stakeholders every step of the way. By actively managing tasks throughout the project lifecycle, I was able to keep tabs on everyone's work and efficiently inform stakeholders, which allowed us to achieve our project goal with minimal issues. Let's discuss the role of the project manager and how that role relates to other roles within the project team. It's easier to hear the term manager and immediately think of your boss, but a project manager is not often the direct manager of the people working on a project team. Here we're discussing the project manager as someone who manages the tasks of a project. But what does that really mean, right? Well, although you might have a few teammates working with you on a project, you're probably not their day-to-day boss. With the help of your team, you can get a lot more done together. Everyone on your team will have their own set of roles and responsibilities, and you'll come together to ensure that everyone is able to do their part to advance the project. Each person will be an expert on their portion of the project, but no one will be an expert on every aspect of the project. And honestly, neither will you. For instance, the graphic designer will focus on graphic design, but probably won't be an expert on copywriting. Similarly, you'll be an expert on project management, but may not be an expert on marketing. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine that you're organizing a camping trip. You might be the person in charge of planning the trip, but that doesn't mean you have to be a camping expert. Maybe you've never been camping before, but your partner grew up spending every summer by the campfire. In that case, you might assign them the task of picking out the right number and style of tents for your group. So, in this example, you are planning the trip by giving your partner the job of finding the right number of tents and the right size tents to make sure everyone's covered. You aren't doing the research or the task yourself, but you're making sure that things are getting done. It's similar in the workplace. As the project manager, you won't be an expert in every project role, and that's okay. As we said, your job isn't to be the expert on everything. Instead, you're responsible for guiding your team and making sure that they have the support that they need in order to complete the project. So how does a project manager go about doing that? Let's discuss using a few more examples of the required responsibilities you might find in a job listing. First, you'll need to hold all team members accountable for their assigned tasks. Managing tasks will help you hold your team members accountable by giving them ownership over specific pieces of the project. Second, you'll need to ensure that issues and risks are tracked and visible, and be able to establish escalation paths. Now, by escalation paths, I mean that you should know how you'll communicate risks to the right people at the right time. Third, you'll need to understand and help teammates adopt the right workflows and project management styles. As the project manager, you'll likely have the best idea of which style is best for the work. It's your job to ensure that the team adheres to that style and the other systems in place. And fourth, you'll need to collaborate with other teams at the organization to meet the requirements based on project, scope, schedule, and budget. In other words, a project may affect not only your team, but other teams at an organization, as well, say, the marketing or the finance team. So you'll need to work with those teams to ensure that everyone is happy with the project outcomes. You'll learn more about working with other stakeholders in a later course. Catch all that? Let's recap. You've learned that a project manager isn't always the direct manager of each member of the project team. Rather, they're responsible for guiding those people and ensuring they have the support they need to complete the project. While there are lots of different skills a project manager can bring to their role, there are 4 specific skill sets that we think can help a project manager be successful. Those are enabling decision-making, communicating and escalating, flexibility, and strong organizational skills. First, let's talk about enabling decision-making. The ability to enable decision-making on the team, or gathering decisions from the appropriate leader, is crucial to keep projects on task and achieve their goals. Lots of the day-to-day decisions within the project will likely fall to you and your teammates to discuss and agree on. You'll ensure that projects stay on schedule by gathering information from teammates and using those insights to help the team make informed decisions. You'll also make sure that those decisions are communicated to the necessary coworkers, whether that's the immediate team or company leaders. For example, you might provide relevant data or feedback to help your teammates make an informed decision between choice A and choice B. The second skill is communicating and escalating. As a project manager, you'll use your communication skills in just about everything you do. This might look like documenting plans, sending emails about the status of the project, or holding a meeting to escalate risks or issues to stakeholders. The third skill is flexibility. As a project manager, knowing how to be flexible when changes are needed is key. Plans definitively will change, even with careful upfront planning. For example, maybe the goals of your company change, or maybe a member of your team unexpectedly takes a new position at another company. A good project manager knows that unpredictable moments like these are almost always guaranteed. A quote we love here at Google is, "The only constant is change," and that's true. By staying cool under pressure, you'll be able to adjust while helping your team stay calm too. And finally, a successful project manager needs strong organizational skills. As you learned earlier, the role of a project manager requires using a lot of different processes to keep the project on track. Having strong organizational skills means having the ability to organize these processes and the core elements of a project to ensure nothing gets lost or overlooked, which, trust me, can and does happen. To prevent this, you might decide to track daily tasks in a spreadsheet or send frequent status updates or reminders. There are many ways to stay organized and hone your organizational skills, and we'll talk more about them throughout the program. To recap, decision-making, communicating and escalating, flexibility, and strong organizational skills are 4 core skill sets that are essential to successful project management. You can continue to build on these skills by becoming familiar with industry knowledge that applies to most project management roles. Knowledge of helpful tools and templates and familiarity with popular project management styles like Waterfall and Agile can help you organize and document the project throughout its life cycle. We'll learn about these throughout this program. Hopefully, you feel better equipped to explain the core skills a project manager should bring to the role. These skills really help enforce team morale and accountability for the tasks of a project. We'll discuss this coming up. Earlier, you learned about the role of the project manager and the core skills you'll need to be successful in that role. You've also learned more about your role within the project team. Now let's discuss a few key skills that you'll use to build relationships with your teammates and stakeholders. Using your interpersonal skills is key to building relationships with the people involved in your project. By developing these relationships, you'll learn about the needs and concerns of the team. This will help you determine the priorities of the project and motivate your team throughout the process. Possessing strong interpersonal skills is a huge part of good leadership. Even if you've never held a formal leadership position, having these skills will help you when you need to guide a team. This is called influencing without authority, which refers to a project manager's ability to guide teammates to complete their assigned work without acting as their direct managers. There's a few key interpersonal skills that you can use to accomplish this and guide the project outcomes, even without the authority of being your teammate's boss. These skills include communication, negotiation, conflict mediation, and understanding motivations. So let's break these down. First up is a key skill we've mentioned a few times now, communication. In the context of leading a team, communication can include checking in with teammates to understand how they're progressing on a task and providing clear feedback on the quality of a teammate's work. Next is negotiation. Negotiation might include working with a teammate to compromise on a new deadline when they tell you that they won't be able to complete their work on time. Now, trust me, I know this can be frustrating, but you'll need to use your negotiation skills often with your teammates and stakeholders to balance their needs and what is best for the project. Another important skill is conflict mediation. As we mentioned, project plans can change and issues will arise. This can sometimes lead to tension and conflict within the team. So conflict mediation is a great skill to practice and develop to ensure the project does not suffer as a result. This might involve setting up a meeting with 2 teammates who are struggling to agree upon the best way to handle a shared task. And finally, there's understanding motivations. This means getting to know your teammates and figuring out what pushes them to do their best work. Understanding motivations might also include learning how your teammates prefer to receive feedback and how they like to receive recognition for doing a great job. You would use that individualized information to motivate and encourage each person on your team. So to recap, communication, negotiation, conflict mediation, and understanding motivations are all interpersonal skills that will help you influence without authority. During job interviews for project management positions, you might be asked to discuss a time when you influenced without authority. And it's possible that you've already noticed ways that you've used these skills in your personal life without even realizing it. For example, let's say you have a coworker who's constantly late to every meeting, and I mean every meeting. While you can't force them to arrive on time, it's likely that you've thought about ways to motivate them to want to be on time. In doing so, you might have also wondered how to change the way you communicate with your coworker to influence them to be on time. Maybe you've tried asking them to arrive 15 minutes earlier than the rest of the group. Or maybe you've told them how this behavior impacts the rest of the team. Both of these strategies are examples of influencing without authority, and they serve to encourage specific behavior. Influencing without authority is one of the most critical and one of the most challenging aspects of project management. As you've just learned, you'll need to leverage your interpersonal skills in order to do it effectively.
Congratulations on finishing this video in the Google Project Management Certificate. Access the full learning experience, including job search help, and start to earn your official certificate by clicking on the icon. To view the next course in this video, click here and subscribe to our channel to learn more from Google Career Certificates.